Welcome to this explainer on performance engineering. Today, we're going to bust a massive misconception in the software world. We're talking about why simply throwing money at a problem, just adding more servers or buying a faster database, is almost never the real answer to a slow system. Instead, we're going to dig into the actual science and discipline of making your applications blindingly fast and incredibly scalable.
Listen, it's a harsh reality of the digital landscape. Users rarely forgive a slow application. Think about it. Your users might forgive a missing feature, right? They might forgive a somewhat clunky design, and they'll usually even forgive a minor bug if your team patches it up quickly. But slowness? Slowness literally kills revenue, it destroys user trust, and it completely ruins the user experience. If your API is slow, the whole front end just feels broken. If a checkout page hangs, customers are just going to abandon their carts. So performance isn't just some back-end technical concern. It's absolutely fundamental to the quality of your product. So what happens when an application slows down? The knee-jerk reaction for a lot of teams is to just guess. They assume, the database is the problem, or we just need to migrate to the cloud. But guessing is incredibly dangerous. Real performance engineering requires solid evidence. The absolute golden rule here is that you must measure before you optimize. If you don't, you could easily spend weeks tweaking code that only accounts for, say, 1% of the total response time, totally missing the actual issue. To avoid that trap, we're breaking this massive discipline down into a clear roadmap of 3 core pillars: measure, optimize, and future-proof. All right, let's jump right into pillar 1, measure. To really treat performance like a diagnostic investigation, you have to understand your baseline metrics. Specifically, you need to know the difference between latency and throughput. Latency is all about how fast one specific request completes. So, for example, a single user clicks a button and a page loads in 2 seconds. Throughput, on the other hand, is how much total work the system can handle all at once, like successfully processing 10,000 users logging in simultaneously. A system could have fantastic, low latency for just 10 users, but completely collapse and fail when traffic spikes to 10,000. You really have to measure and engineer for both. And as you measure, you're really on the hunt for one thing: the bottleneck. Every single system out there has a bottleneck. It might be a CPU struggling to process data, it could be a locked database table, or it might even be a slow third-party API that your system is just sitting there waiting on. Look, if your database is the actual bottleneck, adding 10 more front-end web servers isn't going to speed up your application one bit. Your job as a performance engineer is to find that one true constraint and completely remove it. Okay, so how do you actually find these hidden bottlenecks? Well, you use a technique called profiling. Profiling lets you move away from subjective opinions, like a developer just kind of feeling that the API is acting sluggish, to hard, undeniable evidence about where time is actually being wasted. A good profiler looks at your system under realistic conditions and tells you exactly which functions are slow, which database queries are too expensive, and exactly where your memory is being eaten up. Which brings us right into pillar 2, optimize. Now it's time for the actual optimization surgery. Let's talk about a really notorious database bottleneck known as the N+1 query problem. Imagine a learning app that needs to load a list of 100 courses. A poorly optimized system will make one query to get those 100 courses, and then it'll run 100 separate, individual queries to grab the instructor for each one of them. That creates 101 database calls, instead of just one highly efficient request using a database join. This is a super simple mistake, but it can absolutely destroy your application's performance, and it's exactly the kind of thing that profiling is going to uncover. Once you've cleaned up those inefficient queries, your next best friend for speeding up expensive data reads is caching. Caching dramatically reduces repeated system work by basically storing frequently used data so you can retrieve it instantly. And you can actually implement caching at multiple layers, right in the user's browser, through a content delivery network, in the application itself, or even all the way down at the database level. If thousands of users are looking at the exact same public course catalog, your database shouldn't be sweating to generate that list every single time. It should just instantly serve it right from the cache. But, and this is a big but, caching introduces some major architectural complexity, which brings us to a really tricky question. What happens when the data changes? This is known as cache invalidation, and it is notoriously difficult. Just think about user permissions. What happens to a user's access if their corporate role changes, meaning they shouldn't see certain training modules anymore, but the cache wasn't properly invalidated? They might still be accessing restricted data. So caching is incredibly powerful, for sure, but it's really dangerous if it's used carelessly without a rock-solid invalidation strategy.
Now, moving from the back end over to the front end, we really want to optimize the user's direct experience. A content delivery network, or CDN, is a total game changer here. It serves heavy static files like your images, CSS, videos from edge locations that are physically nearby the user, which drastically cuts down network travel time. On top of that, you can optimize the browser experience with techniques like lazy loading. So if the user opens a really complex dashboard, you ensure only the critical widgets render right away, while the secondary stuff loads quietly in the background. That makes the whole application feel instantly responsive, which keeps users from getting frustrated and bouncing.
But what about heavy back-end tasks that literally can't be instantaneous? That's where we bring in asynchronous processing. Let's say a user finishes a course and requests their PDF certificate. Instead of locking up the entire system and forcing them to stare at a spinning wheel for 30 seconds while the PDF generates, the system just queues up the job in the background and instantly shoots a quick response back to the user like, "Hey, your certificate is generating." When the background job finally finishes, it just pings the user. This massively improves perceived speed and keeps your service from getting totally bottlenecked by slow, heavy tasks. And that brings us to our final stop, Pillar 3, future-proof.
Because look, local optimization is great, but it's just not enough if a massive traffic surge totally crashes your system. To future-proof, we have to test reality before it actually happens. And we do that through 3 different types of testing. First, load testing. This simulates your expected normal peak traffic to make sure response time stays stable. Then, stress testing intentionally pushes the system way beyond its limits to see exactly what breaks first. Does the database fall over? Do you run out of memory? And finally, spike testing simulates sudden, crazy disasters or viral moments, like a huge marketing campaign driving thousands of instant clicks. You run these tests to expose the weak links before your real users ever have to suffer through them.
All of those tests feed directly into capacity planning. You basically have to bridge your technical capacity with your company's actual business growth. You really shouldn't be caught off guard when traffic goes up. If your sales team just closed a massive deal to onboard 50,000 new corporate learners next month, capacity planning means you're already looking at traffic trends, forecasting that database load, and spinning up the right infrastructure well before those 50,000 users try to log in on Monday morning.
Inevitably, you will hit your limits and need to expand. And when you do, you have to choose an architectural path for scaling. You generally have 2 choices here. Vertical scaling is taking one single machine and just making it beefier, adding more CPU, more memory, or a way faster disk to your database instance. Horizontal scaling, though, means adding more machines alongside the ones you already have, like spinning up 5 brand new application servers to share the load. Horizontal scaling is incredibly elastic, especially for cloud systems, but you have to design your architecture to support it from the ground up. The app has to be stateless, meaning it doesn't store user session data locally, so that literally any server can seamlessly handle any user request.
Now, to maintain all of this discipline as your team grows and constantly ships new code, you've got to set up what are called performance budgets. Because let's be real, apps rarely get slow overnight, right? They get slow gradually. It's death by 1,000 cuts. One developer adds a slightly heavier image. The next sprint, someone else adds an extra API call. A performance budget draws a hard line in the sand, saying, for example, the homepage absolutely must load in under 2 seconds. If a new feature pushes that load time to 2.5 seconds, the automated system flags it, and the team has to go back and optimize it before that code is ever allowed to go live. Finally, you absolutely need continuous performance observability running in production. And here's a massive pro tip for you. Stop just looking at your average response times. Averages lie. Your average latency might look totally fine, but what about the outliers? That is exactly why you monitor the 95th and 99th percentiles. The 99th percentile tells you exactly what your slowest, most frustrated 1% of users are experiencing. By combining that data with distributed tracing, which literally tracks a single request across every single service it touches, you will always know exactly where your system is struggling in real time. As we wrap things up, I really want you to take this away. Performance is a continuous engineering discipline. It's not just some one-time magic trick you tack on at the end of a project. It requires measuring, optimizing, and future-proofing at literally every step of the development cycle. Which leaves us with one final, very critical question for you and your team to think about. Will your application survive its next viral spike? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this gives you the tools and the mindset you need to go out there and build truly fast, scalable systems.